G'day, Seb Webb here from Webb Performance and welcome to the Webb Performance Podcast. Each week we'll be tapping into athletic development from a strength and conditioning perspective and also gaining insights from other practitioners such as physiotherapists and also gaining insights from current athletes, whether they are at the semi-pro level, the emerging athlete level or the professional level. This week we'll be discussing in-season training. In-season training can be difficult for athletes as they are trying to navigate how to work best around their competition. So particularly in Australia we have our winter season sports only having 1 day worth of competition, either be the Friday or a Saturday generally, and people are trying to structure their week and how to actually make the most effective training plan to make sure they prepare and peak for game day performance. And it can be really challenging as well because you don't want to just stop shop from all the changes or adaptations you created within the off-season and pre-season periods because you work so hard to get yourself in a good position for the season ahead. But it's also quite hard when you are trying to train when you're physically sore, you're psychologically depleted potentially from game days, and also just life stresses as well as an emerging athlete and a semi-private athlete, or semi-pro athlete, I should say. And if people can start to understand that if we just do the minimum effective volumes within our training, we're actually going to be really far ahead and more further ahead than what we think as well, because maintenance is actually relatively easy. Still requires a lot of work, still requires you to actually train with intensity, but the volumes are quite low. So especially in the gym setting as well, you don't really need as much as you think. You want to make sure you still do the frequency stimuluses such as power and strength with your accessories to navigate around potential injury risks in your sport, such as hamstrings and AFL, ankles and netball, quads and adductors and soccer. And if you do the minimum volume in a gym setting, it's really only 9 reps total per week at 85% or above. You don't really want to be below that 80% mark because it's not a strong enough response or stimulus within your body to actually make a change and or even just maintain what you have developed as well. So we usually go no less than 10 reps per week at 85% just to make sure we are above that 9 rep range. And if you feel good on the week as well, you can actually potentially push up and hit those higher numbers as well. Again, if you're starting to hear this, you go, that actually doesn't take a lot because you can split that into 2 sessions or you can just simply do that in 1 session. It doesn't mean you have to do 10 reps in 1 set at 85%. It just means that throughout the week, totaling between 9 to 10 reps, you should be hitting 85% within a gym setting. And if we talk about speed, if we use the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association models, it doesn't take too much as well. Like really 300 max per session is what you should be hitting anyway. Absolute max for your accelerations, your top speeds, and your change of directions for each quality. You don't want to overlap them too much as well because as a team sport based athlete, you will be training really intensely and the main priority is your sports training and probably more the energy system development training anyway. But if we just do the minimum numbers, which is generally typically between 100 to 150 meters per session, but we can split that into 2 as well, where early in the week, say if you're an Australian football player, you might do your max velocity sessions, so your max speed sessions hit between that 100 to 150 meters totaling in per session. That could be just simply 3 50-meter sprints, which is still pretty long, but that's going to be the distances we hit for top speeds. And then for acceleration, it could be just 5 20-meter sprints. And you just have adequate rest in between as well. And same for change of direction. You just make sure you measure out so it hits around the 100-meter mark as well. And if we can start to understand that hitting those minimum numbers are actually quite achievable, we can still maintain and potentially further develop ourselves within the season as well. And when it comes to energy system development, prioritize what energy system is most dominant in your sport. So hopefully, if you have a strength and conditioning coach or someone who's got quite good experiences and understandings of how the energy systems work and how to get fitter and be able to repeat effort after effort in your sport, they should know what energy system is most dominant. So if we take netball for an example, they're very lactate or that really heavy, fast anaerobic dominant sport because they're always chopping and changing. Their sprint efforts are very short and sharp. They're jumping and landing quite aggressively, so it's very anaerobic dominant. And if you just maintain the qualities of being anaerobic dominant, so no oxygen, just getting those real short, sharp efforts in, minimum rest, making sure we're working really hard, probably a bit more of a 1-to-1 ratio, potentially sometimes 1-to-3 ratio, so work to rest. you're going to be able to maintain your athletic qualities. And where we can get really stuck with all this is how to actually navigate this around injuries as well. And rehab's a bit of a different kettle of fish. I'm not a physiotherapist, so this is just my advice and from guidance I've learned from physiotherapists and other strength and conditioning coaches over the years, I should say. But if we prioritize our rehab first, so say if you've got a grade 1 hamstring strain and it's quite a minimal injury, but still enough to actually put you to the sideline for a week or so, you prioritize that rehab over everything else. So you get yourself screened by a physiotherapist or a good practitioner, and you make sure you get the right exercises, you get the right stages of rehab to hit. Then you hit that type of training, so your rehab training number 1, then everything else comes after that as well. So rehab will go number 1, then your sport training will go number 2. As much as I love to be doing athletic training all the time, sport training and being able to perform in your sport is always the number 1 key indicator of athletic performance, rather than all the strength and conditioning such as being fast, being strong in the gym. That all adds up and it all makes you become a better athlete, but being able to play in your sport is the most critical aspect for being a dominant athlete. But coming back to this low-grade hamstring example, if you just nail the stages of rehab and the exercises the physiotherapist, for an example, has given you, then you prioritize that as your number 1 source of training, then everything else coming from the sports training, your regular gym training, your regular speed and fitness training, you should be able to navigate around that injury well enough. And say if it's a bit more long-term, but you can still return within that season. So say if it's a 6-week injury where you might have done an ankle, such as a syndesmosis, depending on the severity of it as well, you might go, okay, I might be immobile with my lower body for a little bit, so therefore I can start the rehab processes when it's appropriate, and also just work around it by simply doing things like upper body cross training or just upper body training as well, and just hand-eye coordination skills if it's a upper limb sport such as netball, basketball, football, etc. And it might sound like common sense and everyone should be doing that as well. You probably already know how to do that, but if you're going to start thinking, I don't need to be doing anything too extreme if I'm navigating around injury and still try and participate in my sport where I can, you're going to be winning. And when it comes to minimum effective volume, when it comes to injury as well, it still probably would apply a little bit. You can push a little bit harder to get a little bit more adaptational gains within the season, but don't overcomplicate it too much, because your rehab is the number 1 priority, and hopefully you have someone there just guiding you to go, okay, these are the areas we can push in. So say if I have a lower limb injury, it's like, okay, we can probably get a little bit more upper body strength adaptations or gains, or we can develop a little bit more energy system development where we can become fitter at a certain stage. So if you can't run at the current minute, we can do upper body cross training, or if you're allowed to go swimming, we can do some swim training just to get a little bit more adaptation. But you still don't want to overcook it too much, because you don't want to make them too depleted coming back in. But that's where systemized programs where you would periodize it within those small little training blocks or rehab blocks would come in as well. But if you paint the picture within season that if you do the minimum effective volumes, and then when it comes to injuries, you just prioritize your rehab first, navigate around those injury sites, and actually work on the things you're not limited in, within the season, athletic development actually becomes quite simple, where maintenance is the main game, because we want to be performing in our sport. That is completely and always going to be your number 1 priority. And then when it comes to injuries, your number 1 priority is simply rehabbing that injury site. But the athletic development takes a little bit of a pause because it's on that maintenance stream, but we can find ways to actually improve as well. And speaking about improving athletic development within seasons, if you've got a bye week or have injuries that is going to put you on the sideline for a while, we can find a way to actually just ramp up the intensity within reason. We don't want to go too overboard, and actually try and create a more of a stress response. Because at the end of the day, exercise is a stress response, and we want to create that internal stress so we can adapt and become better to it. So we can find ways where if you have multiple buys in the season, we go, okay, we can plan to have a bit of a heavier week here, or if your body is a little bit cooked and is a little bit fried and psychologically you're a little bit depleted from the competition as well, we can still just maintain our athletic qualities and prioritize recovery as well. There's so many ways to go about it, but if you can just fixate on doing the minimum effective volumes within every single quality of training, and we keep it simple, being speed, fitness, power and strength. Keep those simple qualities for now. There's a lot more to it as well, where that can take us down a whole completely another rabbit hole, and you're going to be able to maintain your athletic qualities and actually be able to dominate within your sport as well throughout the season.